Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Ivy the Kiwi for the Wii, also on the DS, but I only got a chance to play it on the Wii. Now, this game was created by the man responsible for creating Sonic the Hedgehog, who formed his own team known as Prope, that wanted to create very inventive, unique, like WiiWare type games that really didn't fit into any genre unless you really thought about it. Some of the other games he's included have been Let's Tap and some other bizarre Sega game that's super weird. So regardless, I was really excited to try this ever since seeing it in both Nintendo Power and back when the Nintendo Channel was still a thing on the Wii. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed to say that the Wii version is easily the inferior version, not so much because of the fault of the developers, but more so that the game requires a precision that the Wii Remote simply can't match. So let's start by describing the gameplay. You control a young bird named Ivy, who cannot fly but has a really sharp beak, and your only means of control is that Ivy runs automatically, and you use the Wii Remote to make vines appear, and then you use those vines to affect Ivy's trajectory, kind of like Kirby Canvas Curse and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse for the DS and Wii U, respectively. But whereas those games used the system's respective styluses, this one relies entirely on pointer controls, so that can be hit or miss. The motion controls worked perfectly from my experience, but it's not so much the fault of the developers, more so the fault of the game's structure, which is where I really take issue, which is that oftentimes the game required really precise movements that just simply couldn't be done with the way the Wii Remote is structured. I think the game would have benefited from some kind of multiplayer mode, which thankfully it does have. It's just, I feel like depending on who you're playing with, that can make it both more and less chaotic at the same time. Unfortunately, though, that's about where the good qualities lie. Apart from some very nice ambient music, coupled with some latent accordions, and an interesting watercolor aesthetic, Ivy the Kiwi suffers from boring, repetitive level design that fails to be inspirational in any way. If it weren't for the nice graphics that look great even by today's standards, it just feels so generic, like it probably could have been released on the NES and no one would have cared. The game also has inconsistent enemy placement, with the bird enemies being able to fly right through the vines that you create, whereas the rats are propelled by it. There are also some annoying levels where you have to escort boulders through a level to break through rocks that Ivy can't with her beak. You can use the B button to fling a vine and make Ivy like sort of do a spin drill through the blocks, but that's about it. The only power-up to be found is the Starman from Super Mario Brothers. Oh, I mean, a star that makes Ivy invincible. No, we wouldn't be plagiarizing Super Mario Brothers at all, would we? Unlike that game, you can clearly tell when the power-up's about to elapse because the music has kind of a finite feel to it, as opposed to Super Mario Brothers' sort of endless loop. Another thing of note is that this game has a ton of replayability if you really like it. There's an entire bonus game locked away after you've beaten the main game, where there's more gameplay mechanics to learn and an entirely new quest to conquer. I was getting sick and tired of it after completing the first 10 main worlds, and to think that there were 10 more, I was just like, oh no, I'm not having that. The game also has the two worst things that I cannot stand in retro platformers, and that's a timer and a points system. Now, the Wii does not have leaderboards, so why the game has such a fixation on points is beyond me. There are also feathers you can collect to fill in a post-game picture book, and they can also help with giving you extra lives, but the feathers are deviously hard to collect. Only the most hardcore completionists are going to even try to get them. And you have to get them all in one go. There are no checkpoints, so if you die, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level, which oftentimes the levels are stupidly hard and unevenly paced. The difficulty balance is just completely out of whack. You got some levels where you can beat in a matter of seconds. Then there's some that took me upwards of maybe 50 tries because of the kind of somewhat lousy controls. There's also a time attack mode, which again is stupid because the timer was an incredible nuisance for me. There was a level where I was inches away from the goal, and yet the timer ran out, so therefore I was killed right in front of the exit. Why must that be a thing? I actually filmed an Everything Wrong with Sonic Mania video shortly before this. Haven't uploaded it yet. And that was my main thing, is why would the game break the fourth wall like that and make your character die from this unseen, omnipotent timer? Kind of stinks when you think about it. Ivy the Kiwi does have a really great ending, so if you are willing to persevere through this, it has a nice, touching explanation as to why the game has Ivy the Kiwi with a question mark, as well as a nice resolution to Ivy's story, even if it's very overly simplistic and presented in a child's storybook manner. Ivy the Kiwi would probably be a great game if you played it on the DS, but unfortunately the Wii version suffers from imprecise controls that, unless you're really good at motion controls, you're probably going to have an extremely frustrating time trying to slog through this. With that in mind, I definitely say rent it. See if you like it or not. That's how I did it. I rented it off of Gamefly, beat it in an afternoon. But I definitely wouldn't buy this unless you're absolutely confident that you're going to be sinking a ton of hours into this. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, now that I'm subscribed to Gamefly, if there are any suggestions for other video games on Nintendo consoles you'd like me to review, please let me know. And that includes SNES games because of my Super NES Classic Edition. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.